Did you know that the calf complex transmits 6 to 8 times body weight when running? Yeah, that's a lot. Let's figure out how to strengthen the calves. So first, let's get everybody up to speed by talking about the anatomy as well as why the calf muscles are so important for runners. When we look at the anatomy, there's two main muscles that create the calf. We have the gastrocnemius muscle, which is the muscle that we most commonly think of when we think of the calf. It's the outermost muscle, so when you flex your calf, that's the muscle that you see. But actually underneath that, we have a second muscle, which is called the soleus muscle, which is a little bit more flat muscle, and both of those taper in to form the Achilles tendon. And when we look at running biomechanics, the calf transmits 6 to 8 times body weight during the running cycle, so we can see that it's an important aspect in force transmission during running. This obviously has implications when we talk about overload conditions like plantar fasciitis or Achilles tendon issues, which are two common issues in runners. And that's because there's just a lot of load going through the lower extremity. So we want to make sure that those tissues of the lower extremity are able to tolerate the loads of running, which is why strengthening the calf muscles is so important for runners. The calf muscles are plantar flexors of the foot. So we can start off with a basic heel raise to start strengthening the calf muscles. And so what we'll do is we can start off with two legs and we'll just slowly raise our heels up off the ground and then back down. If we're actually doing this for rehab of an Achilles tendon issue, for example, we might want to increase the time under tension. So we'd actually raise over 3 to 4 seconds and then slowly go back down over 3 to 4 seconds. When we're doing the heel raises, we want to make sure that they're a smooth motion and that we're controlled through the whole range of motion and that we're not just working the concentric part and then just dropping back down on our heels, but we're actually able to control that full raise and then the lower as well. And then we could progress to single leg heel raises. And so we could use a chair or a wall for a little bit of help with balance if we need it. But everything that we did for the double leg heel raise will stay the same for the single leg heel raise. And so we'll just lift our heel up off the ground and then slowly back down to the ground. We used to think that we could isolate the gastroc from the soleus when we're doing heel raises by actually bending our knee. And that's because the gastroc crosses both the knee as well as the ankle joint, whereas the soleus only crosses the ankle joint. So if we bent the knee, it would decrease the activation of the gastroc, and therefore the soleus would have to work harder. And so we would do a heel raise something like this. But when we actually look at some of the activation research, it's about the same. We do see a little bit less gastroc activation, but it doesn't seem to change that much. So when we're strengthening the calf, we don't actually need to do a bent knee variation. We can if we want, there's nothing wrong with it. But as long as we're doing some sort of calf raise, then we're going to be getting activation of both the soleus as well as the gastroc muscles. And then we can progress to adding some load. So we can use a kettlebell or some dumbbells at the gym to increase the load on the calf muscles while we're doing our heel raises. Or if we're at home and we don't have access to weights, we can use a backpack to increase the load with the heel raise. And so you can use whatever household items you have around in the backpack to increase the weight with the heel raise. So when we take a look at how the calf complex actually functions when running, it kind of acts like a spring. So when we make contact with the ground, the calf complex actually stores some of that energy that's created with that impact. And then as we transition to toe off and propulsion, that energy is then released, so this actually makes us much more efficient, so we don't have to create all of that energy on our own. We can kind of recycle some of that energy that we created. When we look at some of the individual components of the calf complex, the muscles, so the gastrocnemius and the soleus muscle, actually work isometrically, so they contract but they don't actually shorten, and it's actually the tendon which stores most of that energy and then releases it. So if we're looking at actually training the calf complex like it's going to function when we run, we want to make sure that we're training this isometric kind of contraction as well. Dinosaur walks are one of my favorite exercises to start training the calf muscles isometrically. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to walk on our tiptoes, trying to keep the heel up as high as we can go. And then we can also go backwards as well, which actually just kind of increases the difficulty a little bit. But we just want to try to go slow when we do these, keeping our heels up as high as we can. We can then progress to some bunny hops, where we're actually just going to be up on our toes, doing some small little hops. And then, of course, going to a single leg variation, doing the same thing. And then jump roping is actually a great final progression here, where we'll train that calf muscle to work isometrically with those hops. We can either do all one leg, we can alternate. There's a bunch of different variations that we can do to help strengthen up this calf complex. Thank you for watching this video on calf strengthening for runners. I hope that you found this information useful. If you did, go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up. If you want to see more of my content, subscribe to my channel. I post a bunch of different exercise and rehab videos, so check it out over there if you want to be notified of future videos. Obviously hit the bell icon down below. See you guys in the next video.